Well, good morning, everybody. As some of you will no doubt realize that those of you that have known me a while, and particularly those that have met me personally, will know perfectly well that I'm very much a glass half full sort of person. One of the problems with that is that one of my big faults, and I must admit this is genuine. I always look for the best in people. I was prepared to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always listen for the second opinion and the third opinion. Try and listen to both sides of the argument. It's something that I've always done. I wonder if maybe it's because of the fact that I'm not really much of a science person. I'm very much, as you know, being a musician. I'm more the arts, if you like, Anyway, let's cut to the chase. Yesterday, as you know, I got a message from Ken Kratz, and there was a very interesting line in it. He wrote, first of all, he wrote that if you are trying to save a few pounds, my book is being released in paperback in October with 2 new chapters. He then carries on. I assume you realize that most of the 1-star reviews never read my book. That line piqued the interest of a very good friend of mine, former pupil, who now works for Amazon at their head office, Derek. And Derek got back to me and said, well, actually, you've got reviews of the book by both people who are confirmed, verified customers, people that have actually bought the book from Amazon. But you've also got other reviews by people who have bought the book elsewhere and are still entitled to give their opinion on the Ken Kratz book, in order to be fair. But he said that these are verified. There are verified customers out there who have actually bought from Amazon and have submitted a review. In fact, if you go onto the page at Amazon, you'll find that there are 402 reviews. I have not been through all of them. I noticed, though, that as far as the percentages are concerned, the book so far has received a 76% rating of 1 star. Then it goes 2%, 3%, 4%. There are, it was something like 18% gave it a 5-star rating. So, 1 in 5. Now, but as I say, what we need to do is look for the verified customers. Okay. Although actually, before I do that, let's read a little bit of Nancy Grace's. If you go through the Amazon website, you'll find that it starts off by telling us this. Okay, so here we go. It's time to set the record straight about Stephen Avery. The full record, including evidence never before revealed, makes his guilt clear. The Netflix series Making a Murderer quickly became a huge hit, with over 19 million viewers in the US in the first 35 days. The series left many viewers with the opinion that Stephen Avery, a man falsely imprisoned for almost 20 years on a rape charge, was railroaded into prison a second time by a corrupt police force and a district attorney's office. Viewers were outraged and hundreds of thousands demanded a pardon for Avery. The chief villain of this series, Ken Kratz, the special prosecutor who headed the investigation and prosecution. Kratz's later misdeeds, prescription drug abuse and sexual harassment, cemented his guilt in the minds of the viewers. This book tells what you don't know. Making a Murderer raised convincing doubts about Avery's guilt, but now Ken Kratz put those doubts to rest with his book, Avery, The Case Against Stephen Avery, and what Making a Murderer gets wrong. In it, Kratz demonstrates how the Netflix series leaves out critical evidence, including bombshell facts known only to him. Avery, that is the book, systematically erases the uncertainties introduced by the series, confirming once and for all that Stephen Avery is guilty of the murder of Teresa Halbach. What's more, Kratz even provides online access to detailed evidence so readers can explore every aspect of the case, the largest criminal investigation in Wisconsin history. Avery tells the full story of the investigation, filled with details and insights unknown to the public. Then Kratz candidly addresses the aftermath. He openly discusses his struggle with addiction and the disturbing behaviors he engaged in, which led him to lose everything: his job, his wife, his house, his car, and his reputation. While our indignation at the injustice of Stephen Avery's first imprisonment makes it easy to believe he was also falsely accused of Halbach's murder, the book Avery and the evidence inside, examined thoroughly and dispassionately, prove that, in this case, the system worked as it should. Okay. By the way, yeah, hi Ron and Millbilly. I would like to thank everybody who got in touch with me about yesterday's video, to say that some of them had read the book, some of them hadn't, but were thinking about doing so. I would suggest a certain amount of caution there in putting any money in Ken Kratz's pocket. Anyway, let's carry on. I've got a few reviews here to get to, and I've got to go and take the dog for a walk shortly. So let's crack on. Let's, as Charlie would say, keep her moving. So here we go. One of these are all the verified customers. These aren't people who have bought the book elsewhere who haven't bought the book at all. These are verified customers that Amazon have had writing a review. I've limited to that. Okay. Mr. Kratz chose to fill the pages with snarky comments about the Avery and Dassey families, rather than offer solid evidence and facts to sway public opinion from what they were spoon-fed in the documentary. Impressed that he took accountability for his personal failures. However, I don't believe that he has his narcissism under control. Somehow, he was still able to make this book about himself. Not Stephen Avery, not Making a Murderer, and not Teresa Halbach. I won't be recommending this book to anybody, as it is nothing more than regurgitating his talking points from all of his online interviews. And which of course reminds us that there was an excellent video that I saw, which discussed the fact that when Making a Murderer first came out, Ken Kratz sent out an email to various news outlets, and they simply parroted everything that Ken Kratz had put in this art. Sometimes it was just word for word. They had just copy and pasted to make their own article. Okay, shouldn't have chucked that on the floor because I need the bottom of this next page. So here we go. Next review. So this book is supposed to set the record straight? ? Don't waste your time or money. Very disappointing. I was hoping for so much more from the lead prosecutor of both Stephen and Brendan, but there were no big bombshells to be found that demonstrated to me that Making a Murderer was so slanted towards the defense. I have read the trial transcripts, read all of the books, and watched all of the Making a Murderer related TV shows. And I tend to believe that Stephen Avery is probably guilty. But this book just reinforces my belief that the defendants did not receive fair trials. The better reads are the Greaseback books, which are far and away more detailed and informative. The problem with Kratz, his book, and his cases are that all are short on substance, and all are vanity exercises for a man who's clearly narcissistic and insanely jealous of the skills of Jerry Buting and Dean Strang, who presented a phenomenal defense case with many areas of reasonable doubt. And when he lamely tries to explain why he called the infamous graphic "Children Turn Off Your TV's" press conference to try and combat Buting and Strang's supposed pro-defense media push, you realize what a bitter, clueless, classless, unethical attorney he really is. This is interesting. He gives all us lawyers a bad name. So clearly this is a lawyer that's writing this. Strang and Buting, on the other hand, behaved respectfully, professionally, and ethically, proving again how unethical and unprofessional he is. Needlessly takes cheap pot shots at them throughout his book. If this book and its so-called revelations are indicative of the players, evidence and tone of the prosecution's cases, guilty or not, there's been a tragic miscarriage of justice. And, as Mr. Strang would ask, do you err on the side of depriving someone of their freedom when the evidence just isn't there? No, you don't. Both Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey deserve new trials. And as worrisome as it is to think that there's the slightest possibility of cops planting evidence, what's far worse is, why was any member of Manitowoc County law enforcement anywhere near the investigations? One can see why Dean Strang was so emotional when speaking of this case. There are no winners in this case except for Kratz, who is likely laughing all the way to the bank by selling the most overrated and underwhelming Avery book out there. The only truly informative chapter in the book is the one in which he excuses all his creepy, sexually predatory behavior on his addiction to sex, Ambien, Vicodin, etc. Pretty rich, coming from the same man who accuses Stephen Avery of obsessing over sex when he was locked away in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Where are we up to? Next review. Hi, everybody. I'll keep going. I don't know what that was pinging. I'm just wondering if it's being told I've got to get away and get the. No, that's fine. I thought it was something to do with come and get this dog, but no, I'm free for a few more minutes. Okay, next review. I hope you're enjoying these. I certainly found these very, very interesting. Very disappointing. I was hoping for so much more from the leading prosecutor of both Steve and Brendan. No, that's the one I've just read. Yes. So, don't need that one, sorry. So here we go. I got a little bit confused there. Ken Kratz brought up a number of interesting points in this book, but it was difficult to give his point of view a lot of merit. The entire narrative of this book is laced with Mr. Kratz's obvious disdain for how the public has come to see him as a result of making a murder. His constant barbs, sarcastic taunts, derisive sidebar comments, and complete and utter narcissism, which he admits to, overshadow all the truths he's trying to show the world. He comes across as he comes across as an angry drunk, swiping at the world with a broken beer bottle while screaming about how he was right all along. I'll leave it to you to form your own opinion, but I didn't find it worth the money. Okay, here's another one. After watching the second half of Making a Murderer, I found this book because I was researching where everything is at now. I found many articles and videos about evidence not mentioned and videos being manipulated in the documentary. This book outlines some important information not mentioned that was extremely incriminating and used tables to compare the differences. This is a 5-star review for the book, by the way. I feel bad for Ken and the other officers involved. Mr. Kratz, if you read this, just know that in time, more people will see the truth. You really are a hero for what you have endured because of this. Thanks for keeping Stephen Avery off the streets. He can't hurt any more women, and I believe he would if he were out of jail. People like Stephen don't change. But he was wrongfully convicted of attacking Penny. Okay, thank you for doing what you have done. Keep talking about it publicly. Well, that's what I'm trying to do, is engage Ken Kratz to talk about it publicly so more people change their minds. There hasn't been, I only know one person that Robert Herman told me about who has changed their mind. If anything, Making a Murderer #2, when it came out, has caused even more people to join the cause. So more people change their minds. Okay, Netflix really did a disservice to their viewers by allowing something like this on their platform. Don't let a large group of stupid people discourage you. I'm immediately reminded of the fact that before Brendan was denied by the Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, or whatever the hell the cowards are called, that Stephen Drizzen and Laura Nyrider managed to procure no less than 6 amicus briefs. Some of those were not just by individual people, but groups of people, sometimes hundreds of people, groups of prosecutors, groups of lawyers, groups of people involved in law enforcement. So don't let a large group of stupid people discourage you. I don't think you're quite right there. Stay strong and good luck in your journey. Nearly finished, and then I better take this dog for a walk because he'll be desperate by now. You know the one, the black collie. It's my daughter's, but she's working, so Dad has the job of taking him out for walks. Anyway, get back to what I should be doing. So here's another one. I was expecting a professional account of the events that circumvented the Stephen Avery case. Instead, it was a gripe session from Ken Kratz. I'd categorized it as an autobiography of himself, seeking sympathy for decisions that ruined his career. One more. Thank everybody for turning up. I didn't think anybody would be tuning in, but because I had so many to read, of course, my phone only memorizes for so long, and then I've got to try and upload it by doing it live. It does it straight away. So anyway, here we go. I quite like this one from another 1-star review. One sentence summed up the entire book for me. Page 122, 3rd line. He quotes from Ken Kratz, "But I lose no sleep over my prosecution of Brendan Dassey." He put, "That speaks volumes for me, and I will never read another book by Ken Kratz. Waste of time and money. This book was all about poor him. The fact that he cannot even concede that Brendan got a raw deal astounds me. God is not sleeping, Ken Kratz. Just ask Pam Stern. The way he talks about Stephen and his legal team Shame he clearly still has issues. Maybe a concession that Brendan was mistreated would put you back on the right path. Well, I'm not sure about that. Here's my thoughts on this at the moment. As I say, one of my big problems, big faults with me, is that I always tend to look for the best in people. You know, got on fine with, for example, Herman, chatting away quite the thing, exchanging pleasantries. Okay. So I'll just finish, because I'm going to send this video to Ken Kratz and explain that, you know, I've tried to do a fair assessment. But you know, Ken, when you're trying to tell me that, you know, your book reviews, all the 1-stars, are from people that haven't even read the book, I would just point out one thing to you, Ken. Never try and send me a load of bullshit, because I won't be fooled by it. Bye for now.